And now the playoffs begin. Let's just put it that way. Welcome. This is LAFC Plus, episode 38. Here in the early parts of November, MLS Cup Playoffs are in full swing now. We're getting to the end of round one. Some of the best of three series are done. And we're going to talk all about it. He is Mario Ruiz. Mario, nice to talk to you, buddy.
Yeah, Dave, man, what a wild weekend it was. I know you had a lot of fun just like I did. It was just crazy. And one thing's for sure, though. One thing is for sure, we're going to have a new MLS Cup champion this year because we got some unexpected results as Columbus. They got eliminated. We got Miami going to a do or die game. And of course, LAFC going to I'm going to say unexpected do or die game, the third game there. I wasn't expecting this one, but hey, let's go. BMO Stadium is going to be on Friday.
What do we always say? We get the best shot from everybody. That's what LAFC gets every time. And Vancouver giving us their best shot. They win 3-0 at BC Place to force a Game 3 after LAFC, of course, won the opener a week from this last Sunday, a 2-1 at BMO Stadium. So they'll return to BMO coming up on Friday of this week. Yeah, no room for error now. Here's why I say the playoffs have begun. Yeah. Now it's win or go home in every game the rest of the way. You just got to keep winning. However that looks, however you get it done, it doesn't matter. You're not looking for style points. We're no room for error. We're not messing around anymore. All that cliche because of the loss. LAFC have beaten at Vancouver 3-0. First loss in, 8 games for LAFC?
Yeah.
But I think it was funny, Mario, because one of the things you said that was funny was like, okay, get this loss out of the way. Okay, we're done with it, right?
We were joking about that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, get it out of the way. Okay, now we can refocus. You don't want to have to try to win 13 straight to win a title. That's or whatever it
exactly.
Is. Whatever it would have been, 12 straight, whatever. And I know we're joking because, of course, you're coming into the playoffs. You want to be as hot as possible. LAFC won the West because of that winning streak. So they have the number one seed in the West because of it. But it's over, and it deserved to be over. That's where we'll start with this match, Mario. Vancouver deserved to win. And 2 early goals from the Whitecaps just kind of really – they grabbed it by the scruff of the neck with those goals early, and it was just no way back for LAFC, Mario. Just couldn't happen.
It was a rough night, Dave. It was a rough night. But, when I got home – I opened up the door and I just smelled the freshness of snickerdoodle cookies coming out of the oven. And my wife was trying to make me feel better. And it did make me feel better as I threw down like 3 of those snickerdoodle cookies, just so soft and gooey. But then after that, I felt like crap again. I was disappointed in myself. I felt like a slob, because I was just thinking about the game and I just felt, like so stuffed. And just thinking about Ryan Gauld. Ryan Gauld is just, to me, special player, isn't he, Dave? He's just involved in every single scoring opportunity for Vancouver. He knows where to be. He knows the spaces to be in, and that's what's so interesting. When I talked to Tillman before the game, I talked to Cherundolo, I talked to O'Brien, and I talked to one more player. Slips my mind, but I asked them all about Ryan Gauld. I said, "What makes him so dangerous?" Yeah. Every single one of them, they almost had the same answer. Bogusz, yes, yes, Matty. They all said he knows how to get into the right spaces. He knows about the spacing. They all said that first, and it's true. It's true. Yeah. He knows how to do it. He's kind of like, obviously the greats like Messi do that also. So Ryan Gauld, he is the energizer, for that offense.
It's difficult to defend that. It is difficult to defend a player like that. Now, we see it on some level with like a Ricky Puig, similar, certain players. Remember Nico Lodero used to give us fits for Seattle when he was in his prime because he could pop up anywhere. And it's not just giving LAFC fits. These players, do it to every team because it's difficult to defend those kind of players because they are so talented. But also, as Mario says, they can pop up anywhere. They can find space. They can create, and they can play quickly as well. And that's always tough to defend. It's the speed of play. It's not just how fast you are. Carlos Valderrama, for you young kids out there who are less than 40 years old, go look him up. He probably couldn't outrun me still at my age. And I was the slowest 25-year-old on the planet, let alone a 54-year-old now that I am now. I can barely walk up and down the stairs. I could probably still outrun Carlos Valderrama. He didn't run. That wasn't the point. He knew where the space was going to be, and he found his space and then created it with a pass. And that's what Ryan Gauld is so dangerous about Mario. There's some things I take
Mhm.
away from this match, good or bad. I mean, look, it was a bad game for LAFC. We can't sugarcoat it here on LAFC Plus. It was
Right.
a performance, no doubt about it. And the team
Mhm.
knows that. That's why you have home field advantage and play those 34 games. Because no disrespect to Vancouver, the first thing I take away from this match is shame on them for being the 8th seed.
Mhm.
Sincerely. Now, they still might beat LAFC, right? And then
Yeah, respect
they
to
still
them.
might end LAFC season, and that could
Yeah.
happen. They're good. How in the world does this team finish 8th in the Western Conference?
Yeah.
I mean, shame on them then. I mean, what are you doing all season?
I mean, off the top of my head, they didn't win games at home. That's probably one of the main
Yeah,
reasons, but
you're
they
right.
did pick up that win on Sunday against LAFC. But, they also had a whole bunch of things that just bounced their way that didn't bounce their way in game one,
True.
and to explain this even further, Vancouver had 2 shots on goal, but they had 3 goals. What I mean? So how does that even happen? Incredible. That's football sometimes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was one of those games where certain things happen early sometimes in a
Yep.
match. It totally
Mhm.
changes everything. Now, if Denis gets a goal midway through, maybe not even midway, it was early in the second half. LAFC came out with their pants on fire, really. Steve Cherundolo
Yeah.
probably
Yeah, they
had a
did.
few words for him at halftime, and they really
Yeah.
came out playing and flying. And if they get that Denis goal, it wasn't a mistake
Mhm.
by Denis, but a great save by Takaoka. What are you going to do? But it was a
Yep.
break, not a breakaway in a classic sense. There was defenders chasing him down, but he got in on goal. If he can put that away and Takaoka doesn't make an outstanding save, or he's a half
Mhm.
second later coming off his line, it's 2-1, and then all of a sudden it's like, uh-oh. The crowd is, scared. There's no momentum anymore for Vancouver. It's all on the side of LA. Who knows, right? So those things happen. The
Mhm.
bounces went their way, no doubt
Yep.
about it. But you got to take advantage of those too. Here's another factor that I think that can't be understated. Vancouver are not afraid. They don't have anything to lose.
Mhm.
I mean, they're the 8th seed. They're supposed to lose.
Yeah, like
There is
Sartini
no-
said, he said, we're not bored of playing LAFC, even though we played each other 50 times in the last 2 years.
Because
He's
they
like,
never
we're not
beat us.
bored of playing
They want to
LAFC.
win finally. I mean, of course he's not bored with it. They still haven't
Yeah.
won. And that's a dangerous
Yeah.
thing, though. They're not afraid anymore.
Mhm.
Like I think for a while there when they were playing us, they expected to lose. But I don't see that right now. Now, that doesn't mean they're the favorite going into our BMO Stadium and our home turf. No, they're not the favorite. They're probably going to lose. They're probably going to get their season ended by LAFC probably on Friday night. That's what is likely to happen. Doesn't mean it will,
Yeah.
but they're not afraid.
Yeah,
They're playing
Sartini
like
knows
with-
that they were in that game one, and he said after game one that it was a game of centimeters. He said that they lost. And in game two, it was also a game of centimeters, but it went their way this
Went
time
their way.
with the
Sure,
centimeters.
sure.
Yeah.
And it looks worse because it's 3-0, of course. I mean,
Mhm.
they thrashed LAFC on the score sheet, and they're
Right.
not afraid.
It was closer than that.
Yeah, I'm a gambler. I'm a poker player. You know that. We call it playing with house money. That's where
Yeah.
Vancouver is. They don't have anything to fear because
That's
they're not
true.
supposed to, they're just going to push their chips
Yeah.
and they're not supposed to win the hand. Like they're just supposed to be knocked out. They're the 8th seed. Kind of
Mhm.
like you would expect, of course. We'll talk more about that with Red Bulls and, the Atlanta being the
Ooh,
9th
I want to talk
seed,
about the Red Bulls.
Yeah,
I
we
gotta talk
definitely
about
will.
the Red Bulls
But there's
too.
no pressure on those teams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
Really. I mean, look, of course you want to win, and there's always like quote unquote pressure, sports pressure on you in a series. You want to win or your season's over, but you're not supposed to win at all. Like you're not even like it's not supposed to be a series. In fact, Matt Doyle, who I really respect, he works for MLS Soccer. I like his work. I believe he called the Red Bulls, series victory over Columbus like the biggest upset in MLS history, I think, playoff history,
Whoa.
something like that. But that just tells you how there is no real pressure on those teams to do it, And again, Vancouver gets one more shot, probably will not win, but
Mhm.
their season will be made if they do. That's
Yeah.
also another. They're not expecting to win MLS Cup. They just, they're hoping to get by the first series, so they're not afraid.
Yeah.
All the pressure is on LAFC on Friday. I'm sorry, it is. You brought this on yourself essentially by losing that match the way you did.
But Dave,
you-
neither
you
one
know.
of those goals for Vancouver were like a thing of beauty, right? They were really results from either like a sloppy clearance on LAFC's part or an unfortunate bounce, like we've been saying, that went Vancouver's way. And Steve Cherundolo, he talked about that, exactly that stuff, just after the match.
Look at games we've lost in the past. It's always been crucial moments at the beginning of halves or end of halves where we make mental lapses and errors. Both goals were completely avoidable. Nothing taken away from Vancouver, of course. They played excellent tonight. And were there when they needed to be there. And we didn't track runners on a set piece for their second goal. First goal, the ball can be cleared much earlier and dealt with in a much different manner. Just a little sloppy mentally and technically and tactically in those moments. And that is just not good enough to win games. It's against Vancouver, it's always difficult. It's always a team full of energy and a team who will always, not always, or almost always scoop up and capitalize on opponents' mistakes. And they did again tonight. So we have no one to blame but ourselves. And we will look to correct those mistakes this week in training and try to finish out the series on Friday.
It was a chance that slipped away, Dave. It really did slip away, a chance to not play an extra game.
Yeah.
Because you play an extra games on top of an already congested schedule that LAFC has had. Who knows? You're risking a win or a loss there. You're risking health there as well and playing extra games. So of course nobody wanted to be in this decisive do or die game, but it is going to be can't miss type of football here for LAFC fans.
Yeah, some of those things are valid. I agree with you, Mario. Some of them I don't agree with you in the sense that you're going to have 2+ weeks off if you win the third game anyway, right? Okay, you would have 3 weeks off. Okay, yep. But the schedule is as it is, that it's not a big deal if you win the third game. Obviously, you have to win the third one or your season's over. You'll have plenty of rest in that sense. But the other factors, you could get injured again. You're right. It opens you up potentially for injuries or red cards. Crazy. Even if you win the match, something happens, somebody gets a late red, those things are a possibility. Yep. And the stuff that Steve Cherundolo said about that match right there, he has to say, because they've got to break that stuff down. Right? They got to look at that minutia of why that stuff happened. But for fans, it's really a bigger picture of it. Is the biggest concern I have for this match. It's a little bit more pulled back than Steve. He has to go on the pitch the rest of the week and correct those little errors, so they don't turn into big mistakes or whatever. Here's my biggest concern for LAFC right now, Mario. And it's bit us a few times this season. It's when you give up a goal late, not even lately. It's happened only a few times because we've been great defensively. But it seems like they have the propensity maybe to give up 2 and then 3. In the playoffs, once you give up that, you got to forget that it's a new game, right?
Yeah.
Every goal should be, we have to start a new game and let's reassess where it's at. We're 1-0 down. Okay, we're down. You can't discount the scoreboard, but it seems like LAFC, when they're ahead, look out. Things are going well. They're gonna bury you and all. And it doesn't even mean you're gonna win 5-0, but they're gonna control the match. Like you have really very little chance when LAFC gets the lead, to none. Yeah. But it's the opposite, unfortunately. We're not seeing the comebacks as much. Like when they give up 1, it seems like they're not giving up just 1. They don't lose just 1-0, Mario.
Right.
And in a knockout situation, which every playoff game is from here on out, literally, you got to really just be alert to the fact that we can't go down 3-0 against good teams in the 60th minute. Like, this is not San Jose. No disrespect.
It is true, Dave. It is because that's what LAFC does. LAFC gets out, early, and it's a 1-0, and then all of a sudden it's 3-0 before you even know it. But on the other hand, when you go down, you can't let that happen to you.
LAFC can win 1-0.
Yeah.
So the point being, along those lines, they don't have to. They can dominate a match at 1-0 if they get that first goal. But it seems if they don't get the first goal, we're not seeing the big comeback 3-1 win after they went down 1-0. Now, it happens. Of course, they're a good team. LAFC can win the MLS Cup, no doubt. They're the number 1 seed in the West. But it is a little concerning that, like, you're in a playoff match like that, 10th minute, you give up a goal. You got to lock it down for a while. And I know it was an own goal, unfortunate. But the play itself, the reason there are own goals, everyone, they're not just complete flukes. You're giving up offensive threats when you give up, when you score an own goal, and it's not Hollingshead's fault or anything. But the point is, Ryan Gauld had a free cross to come in that was a wicked cross to handle. Could have easily just been a Brian White tap-in, just the same, right? I mean, it's a great ball. So, yeah, Ryan Hollingshead knocks it in. I don't care about that. The point being, own goals are scored because you're under pressure. And it was just 3 minutes earlier that LAFC had given up a goal under pressure. It was a fluke of a goal a bit, but so what? He finished it. Like, you gave up the goal. You got to lock that down for a while.
That's why playoffs are different, though. They're different because you have to have that mentality of, yes, we got to come back because this is do or die. If we lose this match, our season is a wrap. You have that mentality in your head, but you also can't get off of your game plan. You can't lose your cool because then you will find yourself down by not just one goal. Now you're down by 2 or 3 goals. So the playoffs are different that way. But you
cannot tell me Vancouver's 3 goals better than us ever. Of course not. I mean, it's just not possible. No, they can win a game that way like they did on Sunday because, they kept the pressure. And when you give up that first goal, if you're LAFC, it's not about trying to score the next minute, opening yourself up and going crazy. Like, reassess, fellas. Like, and it seems to be happening where we don't lose 1-0. We're going to go out in a blaze of glory. If we have a bad game, boy, we really throw up an occasional stinker. Now, thankfully, again, doesn't happen too often. And we can certainly win MLS Cup, win a 5 in a row now, and it wouldn't shock anybody by any means. We're one of the favorites. It's just, there also might come a time against good teams you're not up every minute. Like, you're not winning every game, along each game. You may fall behind against a good team every now and again, including Vancouver. It does happen, right? So
my concern is sounds a little bit more easier. Mine is just the finishing, Dave, because LAFC, if they were a little bit sharper in this game with the finishing, then we're talking about that's maybe a goal from Atuesta, maybe that's a goal from Denis, maybe that's a goal from Olivier. So we're talking about a whole different game. And if Vancouver was a little bit sharper in game 1, we're talking about maybe Vancouver could have been up early.
Sure.
So for me, LAFC is going to get the same exact chances that they got in game 1, the same chances they probably got in the second half in Vancouver. They're going to get those chances. You have to be clean. You have to finish those. And defensively as well, you have to stay sharp with anything loose in the box or near the box.
Very good.
That's my concerns for LAFC.
Yeah. That is a very good point. And but I tell you why I think it is. The playing surface, too. Again, we're not belaboring the point of turf versus grass. But when you play on turf, a little trickier to finish on grass. Vice versa. When you play on grass, it's the littlest of bounce or where the ball ends up. Like, it's
where it
different.
Skips. Yep.
Yes. And maybe if it just throws you off that much, you're scoring 1 goal that game instead of the 4 you might have scored at home with the same chances. Or the games where LAFC have scored 3 in Vancouver, it might have been 6-0 under the different so maybe that's part of it too. And again, you're both playing on the same surface, whatever game it is, there's no excuse, you lost. But Vancouver might be feeling the same about when they go on grass here on BMO Stadium on Friday. Maybe their finishing isn't quite the same as when they are on their home turf, knowing that what the bounces are like or how that ball sets up a little differently on a cross or even on off their own foot. And there is no getting used to that in 20 minutes before a match or even going to the city and training one day on turf. There's no getting used to that in terms of the flow of a season. Like you are who you are on grass if you play on grass or vice versa. So yeah, it is a concern though. You're right. You got to finish.
What was also interesting heading into that game too, when we saw the starting lineups and you and I talked about it just a little bit. It was interesting to see that Vancouver did make a change to their starting 11. They brought in Berhalter to start there, and he was defending Bawanga for a good chunk of that game. And my question is, how big do you think that played a part in that match there? And do you think Berhalter is going to get the start again for Game 3 on Friday night?
Yeah, you never know what Vanni Sartini's going to do, right? You never know what he's thinking. He's just a wild card. And not in a bad way, but you never know. He may feel like he's got to go right back to the same lineup that played on the second game. You would think 3-0 win, pretty comfortable defensively. Yeah, they gave up some chances, but you would think they would probably go back to that lineup. But who knows, right? They only made 2 changes, in fairness.
Yeah,
it was
they did.
Berhalter, as Mario said, and Fafa Picault, who also caused a lot of problems on the left side.
He played very
forward,
well.
and he can hit
both of these changes.
Yeah,
they both
really
played
made
well.
a difference. Really made a difference. That's not to say Matias Laborda is not a good player, or who played in the first game instead of Pico. Well, in any event, those guys are fine players too. It just sometimes things change a little bit. Maybe it was being at home versus, you never know. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the same lineup from them from Game 2 into Game 3. Why not?
Yeah.
And again, if you're Vanni Sartini, you don't have anything to lose, but you played one of your best games all stinking season, of course. So I would suspect that they will, barring injury, barring any kind of physical stuff. But yeah, what does LAFC do? You don't overcorrect, right? If you're LAFC, you don't panic. You don't make big changes either. Because as Mario said, as you said, like the goals were, there was a fluke element to some, a little bit of them, in the sense
there was
ball falls to Ryan Gauld on a good block. So when you're blocking a shot and it falls right to Ryan Gauld, I mean, you could look at it and go, well, some defender should be there, but that's easier said than done. I mean, it's just kind of a bang play.
I mean, I want to give Vancouver the ultimate respect. I don't want to complain and say that they got all the bounces and all that stuff, because if we are complaining about we didn't get the bounces, then maybe we just didn't deserve to win that night. Yeah.
Oh no, they deserve to win. They were the better team too.
It.
I mean, but are those breaks going to go like Mario said? Is it the kind of team that needs every break to go their way to beat LAFC at BMO Stadium? Probably. Yeah, they're going to need a lot of breaks if they have any shot. And again, LAFC is the clear favorite, but these are the things you have to talk about after a 3-0 loss that forces a Game 3. It's the same things, Mario, as we look ahead, that the crew are now discussing because they're out. Inter Miami has to talk about heading into Game 3. At least LAFC and Inter Miami have a Game 3. Let's start with the crew. We'll have a new MLS Cup champion because they didn't even force a Game 3. They lost both matches. Well, they drew the second one, losing in PKs, but they lost at home. That set them into a terrible spot, obviously, going into New York. And boy, credit to the 7th seed Red Bulls. We saw them come to BMO a long time ago, earlier in the season, but they were difficult to play against. And
Dave, were we talking about the New York Red Bulls early on? We were talking about the Red Bull early on in the season, and they had their ups and downs, right? But look at them now, knocking out the defending champs. I guess I was wrong about putting Columbus in those 3 teams that are on another level here in the playoffs. Last week I talked about Columbus, Miami, and LAFC. Wow. So we got LAFC going into a Game 3. We have Miami going into a Game 3, and we have Columbus already knocked out. So, man, I could be totally wrong. But anyway, I was right about New York Red Bull. New York Red Bull are a tough team in these playoffs with Forsberg leading the way. So look out for the Red Bull. That's awesome that they knocked out Columbus. Good for them.
So at home, after a 1-1 draw, they win on PKs, late in PKs, went to extra kicks. But it wasn't a fluke. It was actually Columbus scoring in the final seconds to even force the penalties that they almost stayed alive with. Christian Ramirez, our old buddy from LAFC, gets a goal in stoppage time. I mean, this game could have easily been won by New York Red Bulls, rather, in just the regular run of play, not even needing PKs. But were it not for a lifeline from Christian Ramirez off a nice cross and a great header, that they almost pulled that out. But they clearly, to me, in 2 games, Mario, looked like the lesser team. They're not. They're better than the Red Bulls, but they look like the worst team for 2 matches straight. And it was a deserved win for the Red Bulls to move forward. It really was. There was no fluke.
Yeah. The last time a defending MLS Cup champion was eliminated in the first round, Dave, the playoffs, was 2015, and that was the Galaxy. So that was a while ago, and it doesn't happen very often. And that Columbus team was regarded as one of the best teams ever. Some people were even saying that, how the runs that they went on and all the different tournaments that they've been in. But that New York Red Bull team, I mean, they're the only team in the Eastern Conference bracket that has already clinched a spot in the semifinals, and they did it against the champs. So that's amazing.
Who else is there? We do want to give some shout outs. Minnesota United. Boy, RSL, Mario, we were talking about this. Their season just went off the rails. I mean, Chicho,
didn't they? A team
Chicho
that was in first place for most of the season.
Yeah, didn't the guy have 17 goals? Our buddy Chicho, after like 10 games, it seemed. And
that seemed like 3 years ago for some reason.
What did he end up on? 17? Or I mean, literally, I think did he score again? I mean, if you remember,
he came back from injury and has not been the same.
No, it just they're old. I mean, they sold Andres Gomez in the middle of the season. That didn't help because he was electric, and there's a reason a French division, first division side paid big money for him because he's that good. So that hurt. But boy, they fell on their face the rest of the way. I mean, it happens, but I just expected more out of the Red Bulls, or I'm sorry, in RSL. But in fairness, I mean, Minnesota United's also been red hot, so you've got to give them credit. And then the Galaxy, Mario, who are we kidding, man? You can't. I mean, 9-1 in 2 matches. You can't do much better than that in the playoffs. I know Colorado, kind of. They were on an RSL like skid toward the end, and even worse, really. They were sliding down the mountain, let's say, of Denver in Colorado for the Rapids. But yeah, it happened rapidly for them. Whatever cliche bad joke you want to use, because the Galaxy buried them. But you can't argue with 9-1 in 2 matches. That was just a domination all the way around. Yeah,
those 9 goals are impressive, but they are going up against a totally different team. Like you said, Minnesota United is on a higher level than that Colorado team that they just destroyed. And that Colorado team was depleted, and they're not very good defensively. So, and Minnesota is a very well-organized team. They can get you in the transition. So, they're fresh off of that sweep of a good RSL team. So look out for Minnesota United. But stopping, Ricky Puig, who's on fire right now, who's playing like at an MVP playoff type level, that's going to be the real problem right there for Minnesota.
Yeah, then Puig went on to social media, kind of complained about how long the layoff is now.
Yeah, he's right.
Because they won 2 straight. They win 2 straight. Now they got like over 2-3 weeks off. But, look, I mean, with that international window right there, you can't play through that. It's just no way around that. Obviously, you can't let guys leave their teams during the playoffs. That's not fair. As the league gets better and better, there's more guys playing for their international, their countries. Not you, Ricky, but, most guys, or a lot of guys, I should say, that are superstars, are having to leave their teams. You can't do that in the playoffs. And I know I'm taking a jab at Ricky Puig. Yes, he plays for Spain. Potentially he would play for Spain. I get it. That's difficult to crack that team. No disrespect to Ricky Puig as a player. We know how good he is, even on LAFC Plus. Okay, so a little joke there for Ricky, but it is tough. But I would just take it. Honestly, I would just rather win in 2 and get through. Don't chance it. He's into the next round. Everybody would take that. Trust me. None of those other favorites are in there the next round yet. We'll trade you, Ricky. I'm sure Inter Miami would happily trade you too if you want to play a game 3 instead.
No doubt.
And speaking of that one, boy, Atlanta. They get the big crowd in there, and it's really partisan Atlanta, right? There wasn't a lot of messy jerseys around in that crowd.
I love that. I noticed that too. They were electric, and they were behind their team.
Oh, they dug in as the 9th seed in the East, beating Montreal on the road in that play-in game, and now forcing a game 3. That's as far as it goes for me. Inter Miami is going to destroy Atlanta in game 3. I mean, this thing could be one for the ages. I mean, a touchdown type of win. I'm not kidding. If Inter Miami doesn't fall flat on their face, they're going to win this thing by 3 or 4 goals in game 3.
Hold on, though, Dave. Let me just try to defend Atlanta. Let me just try to defend Atlanta and what they've done in 2024 against Miami. Because they played 4 times in 2024. Miami's only won 1 of those matches.
Yeah.
Atlanta has won 2 of those matches, and then there was a draw. So
and Inter Miami's about to tie up the season series, I promise. So, and it's going to be ugly.
Hey, I'm just trying to defend them because I'm not right there with you, but I don't know. Saba's playing good.
I mean, I could be wrong. Of course, that's what happens with predictions, right? Nobody comes back and tells you when they're wrong. I'll tell you if I'm wrong. You'll remember, hear me out. I'm talking 5-6-0. 5-6-1.
If Atlanta were to pull this off for some way, this would be the biggest upset in MLS playoff history, with the wild card knocking off arguably one of the greatest players of all time with that star-studded squad. That is going to be can't miss TV right there. Miami and Atlanta
the best
United
record ever
Miami.
for Inter Miami. They come off the season where they were just missing Messi by half of the game. They still win a ton of, they didn't really miss a beat, really, for that roster so loaded. And Columbus just lost and they're defending MLS champions, but Red Bulls are way better than Atlanta, statistically, all that, for the whole season. Yes, I know Red Bulls finished 7th, Atlanta finished 9th, but there was a massive gap in quality, frankly, all season long between those teams. Atlanta's a below 500 team. If they beat Inter Miami in this, you're 100% correct.
It's not a hat trick from Saba. That's the only way it's going to happen, because he's been tearing up Miami.
I will be shocked if Messi doesn't outscore Atlanta himself by 3 or 4 goals in this one. I mean, we're talking touchdown.
You're really feeling this prediction. Okay.
I am. Because I'll tell you what, Atlanta left it all out there. Kudos, deserve it, whatever. And they have played, Miami well in different times of the season. Miami's not going to lose. Not yet. They might lose, but not yet. It's just not.
They're making it interesting, though.
There's
just
no
like
way
LAFC is.
Look, again, health, things happen. Half the team comes down with illness. Things like that do happen. Maybe. Yeah. But there's no way if Messi and Miami are healthy, mentally, physically, emotional, whatever, they're not going to lose to Atlanta.
Yeah, there was no Busquets in that game 2 in Atlanta, so he should be returning in Miami for game 3. So that's a huge difference for Miami and a huge help for Miami.
I don't know if I love him in the center back spot, though. I know who am I versus Tata Martino, right? He has his reasons, and I don't know if I love him. Like, why mess with that in a sense? Like, you got one of the best defensive midfielders in the history of the sport, right? And running the show so well. I don't know. And again, actually, the people that are sliding into the defensive midfield spot have played well. Yannick Bright is an immense talent. The Redondos, and they're playing good. But, I mean, it's why I know when it's like, oh, you're getting older. Let's move you here. Let's do that. Like,
yeah, that's just it.
Didn't feel like, and I know that they've missed out on a lot of center back injury. That's probably why he did it, of course. But so kudos to Busquets for being willing as well, and Tata Martino for figuring it out. But I don't think it helps them that much. So maybe the injuries do catch up to them in the long run in little ways like this, right? Where they're trying to maybe plug a hole where it wouldn't have otherwise needed to change something so dramatically. So we'll see. But I feel, especially you're right. If Busquets comes, this is a thrashing. I'm sorry. And no disrespect to Atlanta, but it's another case of, Vancouver, really. Like, why is Atlanta this bad? Why were you under 500?
Hey, they're playing with no pressure at all. Like you said, they barely even squeezed into these playoffs. They squeezed into this off the wild card, and now they're 1-1 on a do-or-die game against Miami. It's an incredible story. And like I said, if Saba can get hot, watch out.
Yeah, like how wild would it be if DC United had one more draw? Like Atlanta wouldn't even have made the playoff. Like that's how bad they were. Like they wouldn't even be in it if DC just scraped a draw like in the last week, or what. DC, not like a power. Like Atlanta was so bad this season. How is that possible? Shame on you. Like it makes you, as a fan, in a weird way. Yeah, you're on the cusp of the biggest upset, as Mario said, in the history of MLS playoffs. It's awesome. Like you can knock out Messi, and what a story it'll be. It'll lead Sports Center, maybe, or whatever. Like, yeah, it'll be huge. But yet it also is like, as a fan of Atlanta, you're kind of like, why were we 4 games under 500 this season? And now you're doing it? Like, what the heck? Like, why did
they sacked their head coach earlier in the season? They sacked their head coach. They got an interim head coach now, and it seems like they're willing to die for this coach now. That's the way they played over the weekend.
Fair enough. Yeah.
If you got players willing to die like that and put their all into these games, do or die games, then watch out.
Yeah, Moranchuk is a good player, but Lobjanidze, boy, he just runs through a brick wall for you. Like, time and time again on those wings, tough to handle. The finish, Yande Silva, that last goal. I mean, that one looked like that game was going to PK, but that goal in the dying moments, what a goal that was. Just
he looked like me with his shirt off and his six-pack coming out. And he looked rocked up like me.
He is ripped, man, no doubt. Like, there is not an ounce of fat on that guy.
Oh, my God.
Insane. You're right. And what a shot. I mean, what a goal. It was great for Atlanta again, because there's a danger there where the fans were kind of getting a little antsy, right? And that is a big club. That's a big place to try to fill with fans. And if you start to lose that a little bit, they needed that in a sense, even as an organization. You saw, if you were watching on Apple TV, which I happen to be watching the games, you saw Arthur Blank up in the
he was going nuts. He was going crazy
up there with Garth Lagerway, the president. Like they were going crazy. Like
props to everybody in the ATL that showed up for that match and showed up with their red and black, because it very well could have been a lot of pink out there and just rooting for Messi. But no, it wasn't like that. They were going for the Atlanta United team.
Well, Mario, who pulls off an upset, if any? Are all these top seeds still getting through here, you think?
I think so, Dave. Yeah, I think so. LAFC will come through. Like you said, Inter Miami's going to come through. Yeah, I think so.
I think.
But how is it that the West is the only one that, the West is all set? It's all set except for the number one seed LAFC in Vancouver. Of course, LAFC got to make it interesting and leave it up to the third game. But the rest of the West is all set to go for the semifinals.
Yeah, I still think Cincinnati will find a way at home too, in front of the Bailey and all that. Like NYCFC are a tough team to beat.
I love Lucho. Lucho Acosta is one of my favorite players to watch the entire league. Dangerous with every single touch. I mean, his through balls and just everything. It's just amazing about Lucho.
Orejano. Oh, man. What a player he is, too.
He had a tremendous goal. Meg somebody and then banger.
Oh, my gosh. That Meg and shot. I even tweeted, it was a goal of magnificent quality. That is not to be.
He made it look so easy, Dave, but that was
overstated.
Incredible.
That was world class, smooth. That goal.
Yeah.
Utterly world class, that goal. I don't care what anyone says, man. That goal belongs on any pitch, in any match, from the World Cup final on down. That was a goal that was worthy of any kind of match you want to play, any level. Wow, Orejano. And a guy who's been a wing back, who they decide, hey, we got to have you up front. And he says, okay, I'll go do it up there too. He's not a striker. I mean, this guy's a wing back. But we know how wing backs sometimes can be like guys who were scoring goals their whole life. Remember Ryan Hollings? We've seen them. Guys who eventually I had to play defense because you get to a certain point or whatever. Maybe you're not you're not going to be Cristiano Ronaldo up there anymore. But these guys were scoring goals their whole lives. And I'm sure Orejano has been scoring goals his whole life. This kid is just... He's so good. Yeah. That was amazing.
But how cool would it be if NYCFC were to beat Cincinnati and then go meet up with New York Red Bulls?
Oof.
That would be interesting. An interesting semifinal.
Hudson
New York
River
against
derbies. New York. The derby would be, there's some interesting possibilities with hosting, right? With you never know with what's going on at Yankee Stadium, because that's, who knows? I mean, I've seen some little rumors and rumblings. I don't know any of that situation. Would New York, NYCFC even be able to host? Because they were at Citi Field for game 2, hosting Cincinnati. So, would you end up playing at Red Bull Arena? In the kind of the Portland versus Vancouver situation again. Only this time it's a bitter rival that's in the conference semi. I don't know. I hope it's everything can be whatever. NYCFC plays on their home turf. If they beat Cincinnati, they get to play, their arch rival. You want it to be on your home turf, I'm sure. And of course, they're rectifying that situation all the way around with the stadium being built for NYCFC. That's going to be ridiculous. That's a game changer for all of MLS, not just for NYCFC. So that's still coming down the pipe, a couple years from now. But yeah, that could be an interesting matchup, Mario. You're right. And then if Miami were to get through, let's say, then you've got the Hudson River Derby for the right to go play, Inter Miami, possibly, let's say, in a final. I mean, it's still a long way to go and everything, of course, but wow. I mean, a long way to go. We'll see, but it's shaping up, no doubt. It is shaping up to be some craziness throughout the rest of these playoffs, and it promises to be that.
They're all knockout games now, Dave. The playoffs is still going
Yep.
on. We're in the first round, but now every single game from now on is a knockout game. So
Yeah,
it is
amen. I love
on
it.
this weekend.
And the LAFC one is what we care about. Vancouver, Friday night at BMO Stadium. We're hosting pregame at 7 p.m. on the ESPN LA app. Join us for the radio call. Mario, great stuff as always, man. What a great show. Playoffs get me pumped up. There's no doubt about that. Take us out of here.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like knockout, do or die games, and that's going to happen this Friday at BMO Stadium, LAFC versus Vancouver in Game 3. So let's do it, Dave. Are you ready to go here? I wasn't expected to see you this Friday, but I guess I'll see you again this Friday at BMO Stadium.
I am ready to go. I'll be there. Ready. The voice will be ready, man. Let's get it.
I hear you. Let's go.